What I'm about to explain is probably one of the most important concepts and frameworks you can possibly understand in all of gymnastics. Now, I have not had this conversation with a lot of people. I've just spent the last couple hours putting together this presentation to try to make it visually appealing and understandable. But that being said, the consequence of really grasping what I'm about to share with you is going to increase your ability to coach and get results by orders of magnitude. This is not a gimmick. I'm not going to sell you something that's, cute and cuddly. I am going to break down to you basically the first principles, the axioms of the sport of gymnastics and what training really is supposed to look like. Now, there is a much deeper level of conversation to be had, a broader conversation to be had once we understand this, but I'm not really going to go there. I'm going to deliver you the palatable, the information in a way that you can digest it, and not have your brain melt out of your ears. And then from there, if you leave a comment and you have a question, hey, Raleigh, how does this apply to this? It's going to actually improve our dialogue a lot, because the questions, the comments, the things that you guys are saying to me on the channel, which I really greatly appreciate, it's fantastic. I want to help us navigate how to have even more valuable conversation. And this video is going to be it. This is the end all be all. When you understand this, boy, the world just gets really exciting in the sport of gymnastics. So enough of that. Let's dive on in. So this is all about mastering all levels of gymnastics. And this might be a crazy concept for you to even wrap your brain around. Like, how can I master all levels of gymnastics right now in this video? How am I going to even grasp this? Level 1 to level 2, beginner rec to advanced rec, teaching a forward roll all the way to teaching, a full twisting double. I mean, how am I really going to master this? We're going to be looking at this from a categorical kind of level, where we're looking at categories of information so you can understand how information is actually going to be working together, so that you can better formulate your own ideas and your own thoughts on where you're trying to go. And so that's really what we're going to be diving into here. It's not going to get into the nitty-gritty of everything. It's going to help you kind of understand how to navigate your own conversation that's happening inside your head. Okay, so this is the first thing that you need to understand, is there's two types of infinities. And I think there's the YouTube channel Veritasium, I think is what it's called, where I learned it from this YouTube channel, just that there is actually multiple types of infinities. But the two that stuck out to me were, there's an infinity between two numbers. So you have basically what I'm going to call the micro infinity, and that would be between like the numbers 1 and 2. And the micro infinity would be like a decimal point, right? So you'd have 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, and it can just go on forever, and you'll never get to the number 2. This is a wild concept, that you can have 2 points and you can keep dividing up the space in between 2 points and never actually get from one side to the other side, because you just keep dividing everything. There's I don't exactly know the correct terminology for this, but I know it's like a story where you can basically, the runner starts at one point and he never makes it to the end, because you can continuously divide the distance in half. So he'll never get to the finish line, even though there is a clear end, because you can keep dividing the middle part in half over and over and over again. He will never actually make it to the end of the race. And so that's the way of thinking about this infinity. This is a micro infinity, small type of infinity. And then there's the macro infinity, where we can actually go from the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and it just keeps going on and on and on and on and on. What you need to understand right now, just bear with me. I know that some of you might be like, what the heck are you talking about, Raleigh? This is crazy talk. What you need to understand is that these two types of infinities do not play nicely with each other. It does not matter how many numbers you count inside of micro infinity. You'll never go from 1 to 2. That's the very, very important concept you start to understand. And hopefully this is going to click for you, because this is basically the majority of your struggle that you've been dealing with. It's an information mathematical problem that you've been dealing with, why your athletes are not progressing fast enough, or even just in a consistent way, or why athletes are plateauing. Because these two types of infinities don't play nicely with each other. But let's get into this a little bit. This is what you might be familiar with. Just think about the structure of this conversation, how we're going to think about gymnastics. Okay, you have something like, we're just going to use this as an example. So we got pointed toes. Okay, then we have the ability to jump. Then we have a back handspring from a stand, and then we have back handspring, back handspring. Pointed toes fits inside of jumping. Jumping and pointed toes fits inside of a standing back handspring. A standing back handspring fits inside of double back handspring. And so this is kind of the structure of how, when we do teach skills, this is kind of what happens with skills. Inside of a skill are other little skills, and inside of that skill are other little skills. And so now we have a micro and a macro relationship where I have pointed toes, which is a micro thing, inside of something bigger, like a jump, or inside of something bigger, like a standing back handspring. And so this is the structure. We deal with this on a daily basis. And you're very comfortable with, okay, maybe you're like, oh, we're going to do some pointed toe drills, and then we're going to do some jumping drills, and then we're going to, okay, well, here's what we got. It does not matter how well you point your toes. You can go do pointed toe drills all you want to, get the flexibility in the ankle, squeeze the tension in the feet. It does not matter how much you improve pointed toes. It will not directly affect your jump. In fact, it's so much so, how many of you focus on something, you're like, oh, we're going to do this drill, and then you go try to apply it to something, you're like, it didn't get any better. Like, you still don't care about pointing your toes. You jump fine, but you still won't point your toes every single time when you jump off the ground. Sometimes you will, but not all the time. And so it doesn't matter how much better you get at one thing on the micro level, because on a micro level, it does not correlate to the macro directly. Now, I can put my pointed toes inside of the jump, but pointing my toes does not directly make my jump better. I can work on jumping exercises all I want to. It will not magically get me a back handspring. So I could jump. Does not mean that I jump more. I can now do a back handspring. Jumping, no matter how much I improve my jumping, will not guarantee just be like, now you can back handspring. It doesn't cross over. So again, we have a micro thing, and we're trying to correlate it to something that is macro, and it doesn't work. Does not work. It's very important you understand this. You can have a standing back handspring, and you can standing back handspring till you're blue in the face. Does not mean you're going to be able to connect two back handsprings. Doesn't mean that. Now, it might help, but it's not going to directly connect. One standing back handspring is not two back handsprings. So you can standing back handspring one time at a time individually. You're not going to just be like, oh, that's now two. No, you have to do two back handsprings for it to be two. You have to jump in the standing back handspring. You have to point your toes in the jump. And so this is what actually needs to be happening. This is really the structure that needs to be thinking about, is that everything is inside of, all the micro things are stacked inside of the macros. And so this is actually the structure you should be chasing. You have a back handspring, but the back handspring has obviously an individual back handspring inside of it, which also has some aspect of a jump, which also has some aspect of pointed toes. I'm just using these as an example. Okay, it's really lots of things. And that back handspring then can get converted to a back handspring, back whip. It can do that. The more multiple back handsprings you do with max effort and acceleration, boom, you can do a back handspring, back whip. Then you can take that and you can do a back whip to a back handspring. And then you can take that and you can go back whip, back whip. And so now you're working through the macro infinity, essentially, instead of getting stuck in the micro. And so many people are stuck in the micro, thinking it's going to affect the macro, and it doesn't. And this is why I, with vehement passion and intensity, with cuss words in my mind, feel about drills and all the stupid crap you watch on YouTube, because it's literally cuss word in my head, driving you down the dumbest path in the world, because nobody wants to understand how math works. So they'll come up with some clever little drill. Oh, you want to learn how to do a kip? Here's 47 different drills on how to learn how to do a kip. But let me have my level 9 demonstrate the drills for you, who would never even actually use these drills. And actually, these drills don't even actually get you the kip. Great job. You can point your toes in a glide. Great job. You can extend your hips. Still not a kip. I'm so glad that you have a little seated arm sit-up drill to pull yourself onto a bar. Still not a kip. And someone will go, well, these are going to slowly get you the kip. No, they're not. They're not, because you actually don't understand how things actually work. You're still playing a guessing game. Well, it works from your own ignorance. Like a coach's ignorance and lack of understanding and awareness of how things work does not mean you actually know what's actually happening. And if you did, we wouldn't have these silly problems like fear issues or people, struggling to get skills or plateauing. I mean, heck, we wouldn't even have kids quit. Like, think about this, and this is my challenge to be like, okay, Raleigh, you're an insane person who doesn't know what the heck you're talking about. I'm going to challenge you. Let's pretend that's you. You're sitting there behind the screen going, this guy's an idiot. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Really? Well, here's the thing. If everybody knew what they were doing so well, we wouldn't have an attrition rate like we do in the sport of gymnastics. Gymnastics is one of the easiest sports to be successful at, and we have tons of kids quitting all the time because all these coaches who think they know what the heck they're actually doing have kids quit on them. I have never seen a kid learn a double backflip on a trampoline, the next day go, I don't think I want to do this anymore. When a kid learns a double backflip on a trampoline, they feel immortal. They feel like they just entered heaven. Like the level of just all the different hormones and just whatever emotional drugs that are running through your body when you learn a double backflip on a trampoline is crazy. Like you feel like a rock star. So never have I seen a kid learn a release move and catch the bar, be like, it sucks. That's bad. Bleh. I don't really care. No. If we had success and we actually knew how to get success, we wouldn't have kids quitting by like a high percentage rate. It's a significantly high percent. We're not talking about like 10% kids quit. And we're talking about like 75% of kids quit and don't actually make it to the end of the sport. We're talking about like 90% kids quit and don't even make it to the end of the sport. And it's really not that hard. Oh no, Raleigh, gymnastics is really hard. No, you're ignorant and you know nothing about what it means to learn. Example, when you first learned how to ride a bicycle, it was difficult. But then once you know how to ride a bicycle, it's not. Every single skill you learn will be difficult to learn. They're not difficult to do. Yeah, you have to go to school for a really long time if you want to be a brain surgeon. But once you are a brain surgeon, you're not dealing with the same difficulties every single... Imagine if a brain surgeon going through their neurological schooling, and I don't even know what this would entail, but I know some people have gone through med school. It's like, imagine if all the stress and pressure they had was still compounded every single day of their life, and they just never felt like they understood what they were doing. That's not how it works. Eventually, you get good at what you do. And it doesn't feel so difficult. And the stress and the pressure is not the same as the learning process. So, if we actually knew what we were doing, if our drills and our ideas were so great, you wouldn't have kids quitting on you. And this is my line in the sand. You can call me out on it. Heck, You fly me out to your gym and I will come work with any kid you got and I will walk them through exactly how to get the skill because I understand it. And if you don't see instant, whatever success, then you can call me a fraud. But the reality is, once you get it, it's not complicated and there's no reason to quit because every kid can learn. That's the ridiculousness about this. Like every person can learn. To me, gymnastics is closer to a baking competition than it is an actual sport. It's like, can you mix sugar and flour and salt and eggs together? Yes. Good. You have whatever you made, a cake, a pancake, whatever it is you're doing. Like, it's not complicated. The fact that kids are failing and struggling is more due because coaches don't understand what it takes to learn, not because learning is actually impossible. Kids want to give up. They don't want to work hard. No, actually, we just have bad methodologies for teaching people. Like, we just have to be really honest about that. And I'm only saying this because I've had lots of kids quit on me. I've been a bad coach for many, many years. I've had lots of kids quit on me. And this understanding unlocked everything for me, where it's just like, we just teach gymnastics now. Like, we just do it. It's not complicated. You want pointed toes? I'm going to teach you to point your toes in your back handspring. You want a better jump? I'm going to teach you to jump better in your back handspring. And that's it. And we're going to go get skills. And we're going to go feel good about ourselves. And then we're going to go build confidence. And then we're going to have self-esteem. And then we're going to feel like, wow, I actually can achieve my goals and my dreams. This isn't complicated. No, it's not. It's just a timeline. And it's just walking through the steps. We're not going to get lost in this micro world that doesn't translate into the macro. Enough of ranting. Here's what you need to understand. There's something called fractals. But you never thought about fractals before, have you? Fractals are actually in your cell phone. That's how they figured out how to use one antenna to basically send text messages, do the internet data, and do phone calls. They used to have 3 antennas. There may be more antennas, GPS or something like that. But they used to have 3 antennas, and they didn't know how to consolidate the size. That's why when we had cell phones, we had these little big antennas, and they're blocky because they had to put in all this technology in there. And then fractals allowed them to understand that they could use one antenna to capture 3 different signals. And so they're fractal. So a fractal, what you need to understand, because again, this is a gymnastics problem, because gymnastics is actually an information science issue. It's not actually physical. It's an information problem. So fractals, basically you have 2 things that you want to grab from this. There's scalability and there's scope. And this is going to apply to what we just talked about, but I'm going to break it down for you further. So scalability and scope, okay? Scalability is essentially you're taking the same thing and you have multiple aspects of it. So if you can see that there's the one shape, it looks like a Y, and we have it one time at the big level. But then all of a sudden we get it down to the next level. Now we can see it scales itself to 2 times. And then we get it to a smaller level, and now it scales itself to 4 times. And so there's this scalability. And so it can repeat itself. Scalability. Okay? Things are scalable. Whether it's a micro, like pointing your toes. Do you point your toes in your jump? Yes. Do you point your toes in your forward roll? Yes. Do you point your toes in your back tuck? Yes. Do you point your toes in your giant? Yes. Do you point, right? Scalable. You can do it in all these different places, and you can take it with you. Scalable. Okay? Scalability is not the only problem. Scope. Scope is that size. What are we measuring? What are we actually looking at? Am I zooming into one section? Am I zooming out to see multiple sections? And even though I have this kind of like tree shape idea, I could have a bigger scope and have multiples of them. Now I just want to back up for a second, because you're like, but Raleigh, what the heck is it? What does fractal have to do with this? A fractal is a shape that repeats itself, and and I'm not going to explain this very well, so you math heads, if you're in here, you can do a better job explaining. I'm not going to look up the definition for this, but it's like, basically what I want you to grasp is it's a shape that no matter how much you zoom in, you continuously see the same shape. It's the shape that builds itself into another version of itself, and it just keeps going on and on and on and on. It doesn't matter how much you zoom in, you just keep seeing the same thing over and over and over again, and no matter how much you zoom out, you see the same thing over and over again. So even if we look at this tree, it's still in a Y shape. So it doesn't matter how much you zoomed out, this tree shape is still in the shape of a Y. And as you build up and go closer and closer, you see that it's built of the same thing. It's not maybe the best example of what a fractal shape would look like, but it's important that you understand that we're having one thing and we're adding it to itself, essentially, building something else. And we can zoom in and zoom out and find the same one thing at different scopes and different scalabilities. Raleigh, I don't care about any of this stuff. You're thinking this is just stupid, right? Well, it's not, because this is the gymnastics scope. This is so you got these 5 scopes essentially that all gymnasts are going to have to work with. Doesn't matter what level they are. Doesn't matter if they're in recreational, competitive. Doesn't matter if they're a beginner kid or an advanced kid. Doesn't matter if they're a level 10, an elite kid, or a level 2. It doesn't matter. These are the 5 scopes that you're going to be working with. 90% success rate. I call it engagement, essentially, because if someone is engaged with you, then they have to be successful, or they have to participate. You can all think about participation. Capacity, max effort, a correlation or adaptability, essentially, and then performance. These are your 5 scopes. And this is going to be the unlocking factor of how am I supposed to build my assignments, or what drills am I supposed to chase, or how do I know what skill I'm supposed to do next? Well, let's figure this out, because this is what we're trying to get to in this conversation, okay? I want you to think about gymnastics like a building, and you have these different floors, these 5 floors. And so you walk into the first floor, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's the 90% success rate floor. And then you go into the second floor, capacity. And then you go to the max effort floor. And then you go to the correlation floor. And then you go to performance floor. If you go through the floors in the correct order, from the bottom floor to the top floor, if you go to them in the correct order, you will find success at a speed and ease that you'll just blow your mind. You'll just be like, oh my goodness, this is not as hard as I thought it was. But what typically happens is people hop in that elevator, they go straight to like correlation or max effort. They skip the first two, or they go to performance, and that's where they go. And then they get plateaued and they go, I don't know what's wrong. I don't know what's going on. So what are we talking about here with these floors? And bringing back into the scalability and the scope and just the fractal concept and what I was explaining to you with these infinities, this is what you need to grasp this concept. While I am saying the first floor is a 90% success, inside of that 90% success rate, you still have to have capacity and max effort and correlation and performance. That all has to exist within that, because anything you want to learn in the future is built upon everything you have learned in the past. And so you're dealing with this weird shape, this what I'm trying to get your brain to wrap around. It's not this linear, just like boop, 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 boop. It's like these ideas are folded inside of each other, and you really have to grasp this. So 90% success rate, this comes down to the idea of this. I cannot teach anybody anything if they are not doing it. And how many times do we set up an assignment or a drill the kids just fail at? Like, you go set up a drill and watch the kids avoid it. Are they successful? Why do you have the drill? You go set up a drill and watch the kids do it wrong. Are they successful? Why do you have the drill? You go teach a skill, and every single time you have to tell them, hey, stop goofing off, stop being weird, stop doing stuff you're not supposed to do. Are they being successful? And so if you look at your 90% success, it's like, if we don't even start with success, where are we going? What are we adding to? It's got to start there first. Now, there is ways to get kids engaged. This is basically game theory. And there's lots of, that's what I built my entire rec program on, is developing 90% success rate, because that's how you're going to keep people. You're going to keep doing something that you are successful in. And if you're not going to even try to participate and be successful in that thing, what does it matter what we do next? You're going to quit eventually. So 90% success rate, that's the first step. Okay, you have to reframe your whole entire mindset. It does not matter what you do. I don't care if I'm teaching a release move on bars. I don't care if I'm teaching a tumbling connection. It doesn't matter. It doesn't care if I'm teaching a leap or a turn. If I do not see 90% success, it doesn't matter. We got to get to success. Now, success can be measured based off of the scope of what we're doing. For instance, we could be working a release move on bar, and we're not actually trying to catch the bar. We're just working on our timing of the drop, or we're working on our timing of the throw, or we're working on our heel drive, or we're working on whatever it is. But as long as we're successful at the thing we're chasing, which is the scope, right? Now, inside of that scope is scalable things. Core tension, head position, toes, knees. Those are all scalable things that I also took from other places, right? And so then if I take them from other places that I had to learn them, then that becomes correlation. So even within this 90% success rate of what I'm chasing based off of my scope, I'm still always going to be having all 5 of these working simultaneously. But I'm chasing the starting point. Doesn't matter. I enter a new skill, new level. 90% success rate is the first step every single day. We got to be successful. Doesn't matter what I walk into. Okay. Then it's capacity driven. Capacity basically comes down to is, as it is explained to me by someone who is in the medical field, they said capacity, essentially, you got to think about it like, how big is your bucket and how much water can you put into your bucket before it overflows? And this basically comes down to is how much stress can your body handle before it breaks? Now, there's kind of a dangerous thing here, because you don't want to actually break the body. You don't want to actually add as much stress so that you break the body. However, you grow capacity by adding stress to it. And so you do need to stress it and then let it rest, and then stress it and then let it rest so you can grow your capacity. But you do need to think about capacity. If you are successful at something, let's just take forward rolls, for example. We're doing like a rec class, okay? They can do forward rolls. Oh my goodness. Now I need to increase the capacity of that forward roll. So now we're going to say, how many forward rolls can you do down a wedge for 30 seconds? Now I'm increasing capacity to forward roll. We're getting volume and numbers in. This is where a lot of kids in the intermediate world, kids who are learning front handsprings or back handsprings, they tend to fail. They don't get a really good, high capacity back handspring. They can I can do it. Can I go, I learned a back handspring handspring on the trampoline. Can I go do it on the floor? They don't actually get their capacity up to speed. I learned it on the tumble track. Can I take it to floor? They don't really get their capacity where it needed to be. And so then it just falls apart and breaks into a bunch of little pieces when it goes to floor. So capacity, can you take this thing in high volume, high numbers? Can you do it while you're tired? Can you go get exhausted? I want you to go mat push on the floor as many times as you can until you're so tired. Now I want you to go to the trampoline and throw a back handspring. What's your capacity look like? That's now this is a game. This is like, oh my goodness, who's got the best capacity in what we're doing? We don't even have to do anything different. We just take the thing you were successful at, and now we're going to increase capacity. Once we can get in capacity increased to where we need it to be, we're increasing our capacity to then acquire concentrated effort, which is what I call max effort. So if you think about like your capacity to handle something is so big, you're now squeezing and concentrating all that effort and energy into one moment in time. And that would be the example of, okay, can I, let's just take a front tuck because it's a pretty good visual example of running as fast as you possibly can, punching the floor as hard as you can, and doing a front tuck. It's like, can you take all your resources and sprint as fast as you can, punch as hard as you can, shape change properly, and make that front tuck fly without slowing down? Max effort, the whole thing. Well, it's going to be a lot easier to max effort that whole thing if you've got lots of volume and numbers of front tuck, front tuck, front tuck, front tuck, front tuck, front tuck, over and over and over on a trampoline, on a tumble track, off a springboard. Like once you've done so much volume and numbers, it's a lot easier to get higher max effort. You take a person who just learned a front tuck on a trampoline, you take them to the floor and you say, okay, I want you to max effort this front tuck. Even if you know the person can run fast enough, punch hard enough, chances are they're not going to know even how to really max effort a front tuck. They don't got the volume and they don't have the capacity to really apply it. And so we want to grow our capacity, and then we squeeze it down into the max effort to say, okay, what's the most you got? Now, this is where a lot of people get stuck. A lot of people get stuck because, a kid's doing a round off back handspring that's slow, or they're doing a front tuck that doesn't actually go up, or it doesn't have any height, or they're trying to learn a giant and they can't actually tap fast enough. And really all that tells me is your capacity isn't big enough to squeeze down into this moment. I need to grow your capacity so we can squeeze out more energy. This is a simple principle from like weightlifting. Like if I want to increase my 1 rep max, I want to be able to bench press X amount of weight and I want to increase it, then I'm going to not just be bench pressing 1 rep, 1 rep, 1 rep. No. I'm going to go and work on my 8 rep, and I'm going to see if I can increase the weight on my 8 reps. Then I'm going to increase the weight on my 5 reps. Then I'm going to increase the weight on my 3 reps. And then I will be able to increase the weight on my 1 rep. And so I'm going to increase my capacity to handle load. And then I will boil it all the way down to concentrated effort, which is max effort, 1 rep. Okay, so that's a very important thing to understand, that when you see girls or your boys are plateauing, your athletes are plateauing, it's probably because their capacity is at limit. And you need to go back to the things they can be successful at and increase capacity at them. So then you can max effort them. Okay, so then correlation, where does that come? Well, correlation is if you can do this, then you can do that. Correlation is if you can max effort, which I love this example for me because it just works so well. You get me 3 back handsprings down the tumble track where each one accelerates faster than the next. You can do that. If you can accelerate 1, 2, 3, and the third one's the fastest, and they're accelerating, then I can take that and I can go, okay, now we can do back whips. And then I can back whip, back handspring. So I go back handspring, back whip, then back handspring, back whip, back handspring, then back handspring, back whip, or whatever, back whip. Then, and you can correlate it because the energy is there. So now I'm correlating, I'm taking that max effort energy and I'm applying it to new areas that require the same type of energy. What you often have is a kid who does a slow hurdle, a slow round off, and then the coach is like, oh, I don't know how to get their back handspring any faster. And it's like, well, they can't correlate anything. They got no max effort. And the effort that they're trying to put in, it does not match what is the demands of the skill that they're actually trying to do. And so that goes back into you need to be able to max it. So this is where coaches, I used to not know this. I used to fail at this idea. I didn't understand it. Front tumbling is so important because front tumbling allows you to max effort without having the psychological problems. You can run as fast as you want to into a front tuck, into a front handspring, and boy, can you feel how much energy is coming out of you. So by doing that, you can then correlate that max effort into back tumbling. I learned, it took me a while, but I learned that, anybody who can do a front layout on tumble track, they run down the tumble track, do a front layout, it's like that person knows how to shape change fast enough for a back handspring. I used to chase front handspring, back handspring, and put them in as if they're learning parallel forwards, backwards. And I would still always struggle. Why can't I unlock this? Why does back tumbling always have to be so challenging when front tumbling is not as challenging? And then it's you know what, Raleigh, if you have the energy and effort required to back tumble, then it shouldn't be as hard. But what happened is I was always trying to teach the energy and effort in the skill itself. It didn't make any sense. Instead, what I should have been doing is, which I now do, get kids to do front tuck down the tumble track. Then get them to do front layouts on the tumble track. And then be like, oh my goodness, you have enough energy to actually then correlate that to back tumbling. Dun da da. It's easy and it's not hard. You got to get over the mental aspect, which isn't even that complicated. Most people are trying to teach max effort in the correlation. That's not how it works. You can't correlate and try to max effort it. So that's where you get the person doing a standing back handspring, just jump harder, throw faster into the ground, do more. It's wait, you want them to learn how to max effort in a thing they do not understand nor are familiar with, and you think that makes sense? No person max efforts while they have anxiety. Just so we're clear, that's not a logical thing. When you have anxiety, your muscles do not contract and work the way they're supposed to, so you would not be max efforting then. You have to have a high level of confidence in self to then be able to max effort. So trying to teach max effort while you're trying to correlate something, you have to have the ability to max effort and then correlate it to something else. That unlocks a lot. Performance then becomes the last key component. And performance is the wow factor. Performance is actually dumbing down everything. Performance is not saying, hey, I want you to perform the hardest, most difficult thing you have. Performance then becomes, I want you to wow me in the thing that you have. You got to wow me. And performance is really easy to unlock. All you got to do is take a group of kids, give them something very simple, easy to do, cartwheel, handstand, doesn't matter, full turn on the floor, simple stuff, things that they can be successful at, things that they have the capacity for, things that they can max effort, things that that they have the ability to correlate to with, you're toning things down. And all you have to do is say, okay, everybody, we're doing this thing for 10 minutes. I'm just looking for one person to wow me. That's it. I want this really easy thing, one person wow me. You go, well, Raleigh, what does wow mean? Oh, people know what it means to wow. They know, okay? You got to impress me. You got to make it look so amazing that I go, wow, that's it. Somebody will try. And all you got to do is find one person that gets closer or more than everyone else. And all you got to do is fake it. It doesn't even matter if they're not where your expectation is. You just look at that one person, you say, wow, that was really good. Maybe it's just better than they've done before. Wow, that's better than I've seen you do before. All you got to do is say that. And then you just got to point out that person. You say, everyone freeze. I want you to watch, Sarah do this full turn on floor. She is improved tremendously. Just watch. Sarah, do your full turn. Isn't that great? That is great. Everyone applaud. Love it. Fantastic. That's one person. I now need 2 people. So who's going to be the next person to wow me? Oh my goodness, you are going to pull them along so quickly. So easy to have that conversation. So easy to do. All they do is look at social pressure. Friends, oh, they're doing it. Oh, they got the wow. I want to be the next wow. That's it. You just pull everyone along. You make sure that everybody gets a wow. They just don't have to get it first. So even the laziest person in your group is going to show some level of change or different. Don't be like, it doesn't matter. You never try. No, find a reason. They might be the last person, but find a reason to say, wow, okay, I see some improvement there. Thank you. Because the fact that they're the last person to be wowed is still going to sit inside their mind. And as long as they know that they will be acknowledged, nobody wants to be last. They're going to come back and try to not be last next time. But if you dismiss the effort entirely, then what's the point of performing? They're performing for the acceptance of the people around them. That's what judges do. They sit there and they go, I like you. I don't like you. I like you. I don't like you. That's what judging is. oh no, Raleigh, judging is a quantitative, qualitative measurement of, exact science of, proportions with calibrated, no, it's not. At the end of the day, judges is human beings sitting behind a desk watching 300 kids in a weekend and going, oh, wow, you look different. I like you. You can have the highest score of the meet. That's it. If you tried to wow the judges, you would just have the highest scores. Simple as that. You just look around you. You look at them, you go, okay, you just got to look better than that girl, and look better than that girl. It doesn't matter even what the score, just look better than that girl, and look better than that boy. Do point my toes more than him. Have straighter arms than that guy, right? And then you go wow the judges. And you literally wow them. You wake them up. Because the beautiful thing is, and kids don't get this, parents don't get this, coaches don't get this. And I know we're not all competitive gymnastics coaches, but here's the thing. Judges get to judge on a spectrum. And I don't know what it is currently today. I haven't looked into it, but I remember years ago, it might be still the same thing, is two judges can have up to a 6/10 difference of opinion. So you're going to tell me a 6/10 difference, that's like last place and first place at a meet. So they're going to have a 6/10 difference of an opinion on a person, and you're telling me that we're talking about playing by rules? No. We're talking about waking people up and making them excited to watch you. That's it. Full stop, period, right there. That's what performance is. Performance is wow factor. It is not, oh, they straightened their legs and they did their things and that was correct and this was correct. No, it's not. Okay, you should hit all the things by the book correctly. But even if you did that, you're still not going to win. Because the person who wows the judges on top of that is going to beat you. You can do everything by the book correctly and still lose because you don't wow the judges. So how simple is that for a kid to understand? Don't memorize the book, wow me. And when you wow somebody, you're just going to go bigger and badder and better than what you did before. And so that's performance. Now, this video is going longer than I wanted to, but whatever. Here's the thing we need to understand. It goes back into the fractals, back into these infinities inside of infinities type of thing. Micros and macros. It goes back to this. While my scope is 90% success, that's the scope, the reality is everything still fits inside that scope. I still have to be able to perform to get to 90% success. I still have to be able to correlate the things I've learned in the past to be able to get to 90% success in what I'm doing right now. I still have to be able to have enough effort to put in to get to that 90% success, which means I have to have the capacity to then be 90% successful. So all these things fold inside of themselves, but my scope is I'm not going to operate outside of whatever that other building is that fits inside of my 90% success. And then when I go inside capacity, again, everything still fits inside of capacity, but I'm not going to operate outside of this scope, which means I'm not going to demand you to do things that require more effort and energy than what your capacity. I'm not going to demand you to perform better than what your capacity is. I'm not going to demand you to do things that allow you to fail so I can get your capacity, because that would break the system. And so these 5 things fit inside of each other individually. Like you can't perform and wow me if you don't have the ability to correlate all the things that you've learned into your performance. I forgot how to point my toes. I don't remember how to straighten my legs. I don't actually know how to try. My dynamics are bad. My amplitude. So correlation fits inside of performance, right? You can't perform without max effort. Like if you're going to wow me and you're going to do the lowest front tuck in the world, then you're not taking max effort with you into performance. Right? And if you're going to wow me, then you're going to have the capacity to finish with wow. You can't just peter off, like do your routine, oh, high energy, and then as the routine's coming to an end, low energy, and now I'm taking a nap. You'd have to have the capacity to wow me in the performance. And then that would all include then, if you wow me in performance, then that is 90% success. Right? Because I'm going to always find something wrong with you, but at least you're at 90% success rate. If you wow me, you'd be higher than that, maybe 99%. So these things fit inside of each other, but we try to cheat without going through them. I don't care if it's warm up. I don't care if I'm teaching a drill. I don't care if I'm teaching a skill. I don't care if I'm what event I'm teaching. It doesn't matter who I'm teaching. 90% success is the first most important thing that needs to happen. We all need to be successful at whatever I'm going to say we're going to do. We all need to make sure that we have the capacity to do whatever it is I say we're going to do. We all need to be able to max effort within that capacity to do whatever it is I say we're going to do. We all need to be able to correlate information that you've learned from the past into the present, and you need to be able to take whatever it is that we're doing and correlate it to something else that's also important. Because if I can't correlate it, then how am I going to move through these macro infinities? I need to be able to take the information and move it into the next piece, not just have it get lost in itself. And then I should be able to then perform it at a level of improvement, getting better, chasing wow factor. If I cannot chase the wow factor, then what the heck am I even doing? Right? Don't do something that you don't think that they can wow you in. And this does not mean that they have to chase the other scopes. This, if you want a cast, a horizontal, then you need to go, hey, could you even wow me in this cast? If they can't even get that, I want everyone to do cast to handstands, but nobody can cast a 3/4 or cast a horizontal. But if you cast a handstand, then you're going to impress me. I need someone to cast a handstand. It's like, no, you hit your target correctly. Chase the category, the scope that you're in, and get through these 5 things within that scope. Then change the scope and get through these 5 things in that scope. Then change the scope and get through these 5 things in that scope. But don't chase the wrong scope when don't even have these 5 things in the scope. That's, you're playing within the scalability and the scopes, and it's not aligning and it's not making sense. You're going to probably have to rewatch this video to really grasp everything that I'm actually saying, because this is a 40-minute now long video. But I guarantee you, if you go through the process and the order through this and reflect on yourself too, go back and say, man, did I try to teach a skill without getting capacity first? And, I tried to get the max effort, but they never even had the capacity for the thing. Did I actually I wanted people to point their toes and give me quality of performance, but they can't even max effort the thing, or they couldn't even correlate that thing if I wanted them to? So am I asking for things out of order? Likely so you are. Likely so you are. When kids are successful, I've never seen kids quit because they're successful. I've never seen kids quit because their capacity has improved. I've never seen kids quit because they've been asked to have max effort in something that they've been set up successfully for. I've never seen a kid quit because I've asked them to take what they have and correlate it to something else. I've never seen a kid quit because I asked them to wow me in a performance. I will tell you why I've seen people quit. I've seen people quit because they were not successful. And they were not successful because they lacked the capacity. And they lacked the capacity, then they frustrated me because they wouldn't put in the effort, the max effort to do something. And then I'd be frustrated, like, why don't you try harder, right? And they're like, I don't know, I'm doing the best I can. They don't have the capacity for it. And then they weren't able to correlate. They learned something, but they couldn't actually apply it to something else because they didn't know how to really, do it. And so then they couldn't take what they've learned and actually apply it to other things because, again, they don't actually have a max effort that and have the capacity. And so all these things came to that. So they couldn't correlate. So they would learn a skill. Oh my goodness, you got this skill. And then every time we went to learn a skill, it just felt so ridiculously difficult and challenging and hard. Like we have to start over all again. Remember to point your toes, straighten your legs, don't throw your head. And we couldn't correlate anything. We just got lost back in that micro infinity, never feeling like we could get out of it. And then we could never perform. We were never competing. We weren't winning. Why is my kid getting, 8th place or last? Or, I thought she was working so hard. She tries so hard. Why isn't her scores better? Why did the judge score? It's like, how are we going to wow anybody when we don't even have all these other things built in? And it doesn't matter how hard you work. If you work in the wrong order, it's just not going to build correctly. So I don't care about how hard you work. You need to work correctly in the correct order. And most people don't. They just jump right to the top. I want to be a performer. I want to max effort this. I want to huck and chuck that. And it's going to all make sense eventually. And it's like, no, there's only so many times you can fail before failure just eats you up. There's only so many times that you can push outside of your capacity before it gets you and you plateau or you get injured. There's only so many times that you can get away with not max efforting a skill until fear shows up. Oh, I'm so afraid. That fear goes away when you can max effort things, because to max effort something means you can't be afraid of that something. So that's interesting, right? How we have fear problems, but we actually have max effort problems. Correlation to, maturity of self-ownership of self, accountability, your ability to correlate, take what you've learned and apply it to something else. When kids can't do that, You have to constantly reteach them. I got to reteach you this again. I got to reteach you this again. You get annoyed. They get annoyed. They don't know why they have to keep relearning. Well, they have to keep relearning because it wasn't stacked properly. Their brain is going to learn in a specific way because it's been designed to learn in a specific way. Let's teach our brain in the way our brain wants to learn. That's the key right here. And so this is the formula. This is the format. And you got to understand that you're not going to break these rules. When I talk to stubborn kids, I'm like, I identify that. I go, wow, you are a very determined person. Like you have some tenacity and you have some gumption and you really go for it and you really stick to it. And I will totally encourage their stubbornness because it's great. Because I want them to dig deep. Be stubborn. Fantastic. But be stubborn for the right things. Be stubborn in the right direction. Be stubborn with me, not against me. And so you can be as stubborn as you want to. You can roll your eyes 47,000 times. You can have as much attitude as you want to. At the end of the day, it does not matter what you do. You cannot cheat. You cannot cheat how your brain is going to learn. And that's the facts. And too many people are trying to gimmick this and cheat it. And it's like, this is not how our brain was built. This is not how it was built at all. I'll leave you with this. No baby needed somebody to teach them how to walk. They just needed an incentive. That had nothing to do with you. Like if you took a cookie and you stick it on a counter, the baby is going to eventually learn how to grab the counter and pull themselves up and get the cookie. And then eventually they're going to learn how to stand up without grabbing the counter and walk over to the counter and grab the cookie because that's just what they want. And you don't even have to try. They will teach themselves. The fact that coaches think, oh my goodness, I need to exist so that you can learn is one of the lies. No. Actually, the incentives are wrong. The order of the incentives are stacked inappropriately and just not in a very conducive way. Because a lot of our ego and our gatekeeping is in the way. And we get in the way of what natural learning should look like. I taught myself how to ride a unicycle when I was a kid. It's like, I'm going to buy a unicycle. I'm going to learn how to ride this. I don't know why. That's what I want to do. It took me 8 hours to teach myself. Feel it out, figure it out. 8 hours. I taught myself how to ride a unicycle. Nobody taught me. I didn't need a coach. I didn't need somebody to tell me, put your foot here. Make sure you lean that way. Oh, you're doing this too. I didn't need any of that. Just go, go, go. And what happened after 8 hours? Well, it took 2 days, two 4-hour sessions. Okay. Well, I went to sleep. My brain thought about all the things that I made mistakes on. When I went back to it a second time, things started to feel a little bit better. And I was more reactive and more responsive because my brain just naturally wired itself. Just was like, we're going to learn from your mistakes. That's how it's going to work. You say, but Raleigh, you said mistakes. I thought you said success. Well, success is based off of what you measure, not based off of the expectations of others. Just what you measure. So for me, I'm allowed to fall off the unicycle 1,000,000 times. All that I needed to do was put my foot on a pedal and be like, that's success. Can you do that again? Can you do that again? Fall. Can you do that again? Can you do that again? Fall. Can you put your foot on the pedal and put it on the other pedal? Oh, success. Other pedal, pedal. Success. The problem is that most kids don't even know what they're measuring. The coach doesn't even know what they're measuring. And then the success measurement is all over the place. Here's what we need to hit. Can you hit it? Yes. Ding. Here's what you need to hit. Can you hit it? Yes. Ding. It can be the smallest thing you want. That's those micro infinities. Put your foot here, put your foot there. Can you do it? Yep. Put your foot here. Now, does that mean that I'm going to magically start riding a unicycle? No. But I've got to get success. Then I've got to get capacity. Then I've got to get the capacity and the success because now I'm getting this volume in. Then I got to be able to put in max effort. Well, push now. Don't just put your foot on the pedal. Lean forward, push. Okay, good. I can effort my success. Great. Now, can you correlate your success? Well, one push has to lead to another push. Oh my goodness. Okay, let me figure out how to correlate this. Okay, now can I get this? Now, once you can ride the unicycle a little bit, can you perform on it? Like keep riding it. Like make it seem more effortless. Like make it not seem like it's such a big struggle. See, this stuff happens naturally in this order. But if you're not doing the order, you're just going to be hitting a wall. And that's the reality. And it's unfortunate because there's a lot of kids who could be very, very successful in this sport, but the order at which they are learning is wrong. And there's a lot of coaches who could go a lot farther in their careers, but they're just banging their head against the wall because they're chasing the wrong thing, because they don't understand that this is a mathematical problem that you're just not going to cheat. And so if you ever wake up and you're just like, man, like, is this ever going to get better? Like, can I find a way? Hopefully you now understand you can't cheat math. So stop trying to cheat it. Understand it and play by the rules. Micro infinities do not get you from the macro to the macro infinities. They just get you within it. You can take them with you in some regard. There's micro infinities between 1 and 2. There's micro infinities between 2 and 3. There's micro infinities between 3 and 4. So you're going to have micro infinities go along with you. They may not be the same exact ones, right? But you're going to have this scalability that's going to go with you through the scope. And you need to know what scope you're chasing and what scalability is within that scope. And you need to know how those things work together. And so I'm just going to go back to this one slide because I think this is maybe, I really want you to understand the structure. The back handspring has single back handsprings in it, has jumping in it, has pointed toes in it. And so if I'm going to get somebody to point their toes better, why not just teach it in the back handspring? Why not just use the back handspring and be like, okay, I need this. Cool. Now I need straight legs. Cool. Now I need feet together. Cool. Now I need pointed toes. Cool. Now I need head position correctly. You can teach all that stuff in the back handspring. Get to the back handspring. Increase the capacity. Get the max effort. Everything you need to do so that you can teach that stuff inside of it. Instead of deconstructing everything and then trying to individually teach it and then trying to reconstruct and going, why doesn't it work? Hope you guys have a blessed day. I appreciate all of you. Because those of you that have commented and left me comments and say encouraging words, it's very fun. I really enjoy getting the feedback. Enjoy hearing the encouragement, and I get motivated on making videos. And so it's been very helpful for me to think about, what's the next video I want to make. This video was inspired based off of a conversation I had with my employees. And we had a discussion on just like, how do we know when an employee is ready to train up into the next level? How do we know when an athlete is ready to move up into the next level? And it really comes down to understanding these scopes and how we're going to put our effort in. There's probably a lot more to discuss in this. There's probably a lot more to understand. How does this apply to certain skills? How does this apply to certain events? So those of you that have made it this far in this video, leave a comment. Let me know, Raleigh, how do we apply this in this scenario? Because this applies to overcoming fear. This applies to how we progress in skills, how we build routines, how we compete. This applies to how we correlate through skills from events, from trampoline to tumble track to floor to vault, or how we go from floor to low beam to high beam. Like this all applies to everything. So this is kind of the real conversation that you really want to be having. And this is where the light bulb hopefully will start clicking for you to be like, oh my goodness, I'm switching scopes and I didn't really actually have everything I needed to in this scope. And so I went to a bigger scope, but I couldn't actually bring that stuff with me because I switched. And hopefully you'll start to realize in real time how you're actually shooting yourself in the foot. And you need to back off and be like, wait a second, we need to actually go back to this. We need to get all the 5 steps here, the 5 scopes here in this little one chunk so that I can take it with me into this next chunk, so I can take it with me into this next chunk, and you can hopefully prevent your own suffering inside of your own teaching. Recreational classes, I can't tell you how many times, coaches they don't have their class engaged, which means they're not successful and they're not doing things to create that engagement. And then the coach is like, well, I can't ever teach this kid or get them past this thing. And it's like, yeah, because your kids aren't engaged. They're not successful. They're not chasing success. And so because they're not chasing that, how are you supposed to teach them anything else? They're distracted. So anyways, I appreciate every single one of you that watch my videos. It means a lot to me. The channel is growing. It is improving. I'm still motivated to make more videos. I know that I need to make more videos about actual skills. I know that some people would like more breakdown of how skills actually work from a technical standpoint, and I'm on board with that as well. This is more like a philosophical, brain-heady kind of conversation, but I feel like this is going to help a lot of you that are wanting to have these conversations. You just don't know what you're supposed to be talking about. Hopefully this opens the door to conversation to go even further and deeper into like assignments and how do you know, numbers and time and expectations and quality and standards and yada, 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 building culture in your group, et cetera, et cetera. So hopefully this will open more conversation in that realm. But and then another just thing I'm going to be probably chasing after is starting kind of like a series of like doing videos based off of specific topics and trying to hit a certain series of videos, whether it's understanding how the events relate to each other or how certain skills build all the way from level 1 all the way to level 10 type of thing, and trying to build more of a series so that we can have more concentrated information that kind of builds off of itself so we can follow that. So anyways, thank you. Appreciate all of you. Have a great day. Be blessed. Bye.